I had forgotten to tell my son the security cameras were back online, and the next morning when I checked the footage, my heart shattered. My son Michael and his wife Emily were caught carrying out a cold, calculated scheme. They faked an electrical shock and staged a deadly fall down the basement stairs to make my death appear accidental. The boy I had raised alone after his mother's passing sat there figuring out insurance payouts as if my life were just a product. In that instant, I understood I was not merely facing family disloyalty. I had turned into the next victim of a repeat offender. What they failed to anticipate was that the man they intended to eliminate had silently set a snare that would draw them straight into it. Pause for a second and picture yourself, Edmund, sitting in that workshop viewing your own son plotting your murder on video. What would be your next step? Comment below with your ideas and let me know where you are watching from. The fulfillment of a task completed well has always been my biggest reward. Standing in my workshop this Thursday afternoon, I ran my calloused hands along the newly fixed security camera setup, experiencing that familiar sense of accomplishment from 45 years of electrical labor. The October chill seeped through the windows, but inside my home, the house I constructed with these hands in 1990, everything felt cozy and safe. For 3 weeks, those cameras had been costly ornaments after a power surge damaged the main circuit. Today, after 4 hours of meticulous rewiring, every lens was perfectly sharp, every microphone capturing the faintest noise. At 68, my eyes require reading glasses, but my hands still understand electrical systems better than men half my age. This house stood for everything I had labored for. Every wire I had threaded through these walls, every outlet I had placed. It was all mine. When Elizabeth died 10 years ago, I had considered selling. But this place contained too many memories. Besides, Michael needed a place to stay when his life crumbled. And what kind of father would I be if I did not assist my only son? Car doors slamming drew me from my reflections. 5:45 sharp. Michael and Emily were on time for our weekly dinners. I wiped my hands and headed for the front door, hearing Emily's laugh from the driveway. That laugh used to enchant me when Michael first brought her home 4 years ago. Lately, something about it seemed deliberate. "Dad." Michael's voice held forced enthusiasm I had been observing more frequently. "How is the old homestead?" I hugged my son, noticing how slender he had become. "Cannot complain. Been keeping occupied with some electrical tasks around the house. You know how I dislike letting things accumulate." Emily stepped forward with that flawless smile that never touched her eyes. "Edmund, you work too hard. A man your age should not be climbing around repairing things. That is what experts are for. Experts charge what I earn in a week for work I can finish in an afternoon," I responded, guiding them inside. Besides, it keeps these old hands active. Over dinner, I observed them more attentively than usual. Perhaps it was the electrician in me trained to spot when circuits are not functioning correctly. Emily kept directing the talk toward the house, inquiring about property values, wondering if I had thought about renewing insurance. Michael hardly made eye contact, offering unclear answers about his job hunt that did not make sense. "Any success with those interviews?" I asked, slicing my pot roast. Michael shifted uneasily. "Market is tough, Dad, but I have promising opportunities." "That is wonderful," Emily interjected smoothly. "Edmund, you are so generous with that monthly support. $800 stretches so far." The way she said it made my skin prickle, like it was their entitlement, not my decision to aid family. "Speaking of the house," Emily continued, "have you considered upgrading your security system? These old cameras probably are not very dependable anymore." I was about to say I had just spent the afternoon getting the system back in ideal working condition when the phone rang. Mrs. Thompson from next door, frantic about a water leak in her basement. Could I take a look? Her late husband had always managed these matters. Of course. "Helen, I will be right over. I hung up and turned back to Michael and Emily, who were already collecting their coats. Sorry, kids. Duty calls. No issue. Dad, Michael said, still evading my eyes. We should head out anyway. I walked them to the door, that persistent feeling intensifying. Something was wrong about tonight. Emily's questions about security. Michael's clear unease. But Mrs. Thompson needed assistance, and neighbors came first. As their car drove away, I realized I had entirely forgotten to mention the cameras were operational again. The phone call had disrupted my line of thinking completely. Tomorrow, I would tell them over coffee and conduct a proper test of the entire system. After 45 years of diagnosing electrical issues, I had learned the best way to detect problems was watching everything when people believed no one was observing. Friday morning came with that crisp October sharpness that made everything appear clearer. I had slept fitfully, my mind replaying last night's odd dinner strain. By 10:30, I was in my workshop with fresh coffee, prepared to run that thorough security system check. The multiple monitors sprang to life with gratifying clarity. Every view of my house showed in high definition. Audio capture so precise I could hear the refrigerator humming. 45 years of electrical work had taught me to value quality setups. And this system matched anything professionals demand thousands to install. I was tweaking camera positions when I heard a key in my front door. The timestamp showed 10:45 a.m. Through the living room camera, I saw Michael and Emily enter themselves in, moving with the relaxed assurance of people who belonged there. But they were not supposed to be here. Michael had mentioned job interviews, Emily errands. My finger paused over the intercom when something in their actions froze me. They were glancing around warily, inspecting corners, listening for my presence. This was not family stopping by for a casual visit. Then it struck me. They had no clue the cameras were functioning. Last night's phone call had stopped me before mentioning the fix. They still thought the system was offline. They believed they were unseen. Perfect, Emily said, her voice perfectly audible through the audio. He is not here, and those cameras are still out from the power surge. Michael appeared uncomfortable, fidgeting nervously. Going through his personal documents feels wrong. Wrong. Emily's laugh was nothing like the enchanting sound I had known. This was icy, strategic. Michael, we discussed this Sunday morning. We make this seem like an electrical mishap in the basement. Your father is always working down there. Totally plausible. My blood chilled. Sunday morning. Electrical mishap. They were not planning to rob me. They were planning to end me. The life insurance alone is $250,000, Emily went on, pulling folders from my bedroom desk, plus the house value over $700,000 total, enough to settle your gambling debts and begin anew. Michael's face paled. I know the money would fix everything, but it is my father, Emily, your father who has controlled your life for 35 years, she retorted. George Wilson was tougher to persuade than you are. And that succeeded flawlessly. George Wilson. The name meant nothing to me, but her casual manner made my skin crawl. Who is George Wilson? Michael asked. Emily smiled. That flawless smile I had once found enchanting. An old man in Detroit with a nice house and trusting disposition. Death certificate listed natural causes. No probe required. Alice Thompson in Pittsburgh was even simpler. Poor woman just tumbled downstairs after transferring her property. The room whirled around me. This was not desperation or family avarice. This was a pattern. Emily was a hunter, and I was merely her newest prey. You never said they actually perished, Michael whispered. What did you think occurred? They relocated to California. Emily's voice oozed disdain. Michael, mature. This is how the world operates. The weak are devoured by the strong. I watched my son, the boy I had raised alone, nod gradually in assent. Whatever decency had been in him was being methodically eroded by this woman's venom. Sunday morning, 9:00 a.m. Emily proceeded, spreading papers on my coffee table like a commander organizing a battle. Electrical shock in the basement workshop. Fall downstairs. Delayed 911 call by 1:00 p.m. We will be mourning relatives with a lucrative future. 2 days. I had 2 days before they aimed to murder me in my own home. As I sat encircled by the tools and abilities that had constructed my life, I realized forgetting to mention those cameras might have been the most fortunate error I had ever committed. Emily had killed twice before, but she had never aimed at someone who could foresee her approach. The pursuer had just become the pursued, and she did not even realize it yet. The clock on my dashboard read 1:15 p.m. As I pulled into the parking lot of Jenkins & Associates, my hands were firm, firmer than they had been all morning because now I had a strategy. The shock of revelation was past me. What lay ahead was execution. Laura Jenkins's office smelled of leather and resolve. She was younger than I had anticipated, perhaps 55 with keen eyes that overlooked nothing. I had called ahead, used the word crisis, and she had cleared her afternoon. Mr. Anderson, you referenced a murder plot on the phone. I need to hear it all. I played the recordings on my phone. Emily's voice filled the space. Sunday morning, 9:00 a.m. Electrical shock in the basement workshop. Fall downstairs. Delayed 911 call. Laura's face hardened with each phrase. This is not desperate family greed. Mr. Anderson, this is expert elder mistreatment with homicide. You said she mentioned prior victims. George Wilson in Detroit, Alice Thompson in Pittsburgh. Both died after asset transfers. She was already typing on her computer. I am arranging an urgent competency assessment with Dr. Carter. If they plan to argue you are mentally unfit, we need medical proof showing otherwise. Can you be there by 3:00? Absolutely. Good. I am also contacting my private investigator. If this woman has done this before, there will be traces. Dr. Carter's clinic was a 20-minute drive through familiar areas that suddenly seemed alien. Everything appeared identical. But I was viewing it all through the perspective of someone targeted for death in 48 hours. The cognitive evaluation was comprehensive. Memory exercises, problem-solving tasks, questions about recent events. Doctor. Carter had been my doctor for over a decade, and her worry was sincere. Edmund, your cognitive ability is outstanding, better than most men 15 years younger. She signed the official papers with confidence. What you have described is not paranoia. It is survival response to a genuine danger. By 4:00, I was back in Laura's office where her investigator had information that altered everything. Emily Turner does not exist, he declared, laying out files across Laura's desk. Real name is Sarah Hayes. She is wanted linked to 2 suspicious deaths. George Wilson in Detroit and Alice Thompson in Pittsburgh. Both cases stay open probes. Laura leaned in. Outstanding warrants. Active warrants in Michigan. Financial deceit. Elder mistreatment. And now suspected killing. Local authorities can detain on site. The elements were aligning with alarming precision. Sarah Hayes was a predator specializing in elderly targets. And Michael had presented me to her like a packaged gift. What is our schedule? Laura asked. They are plotting the murder for Sunday morning. That provides us. I checked my watch. 53 hours. More than sufficient. Laura was already reaching for her phone. I am calling Detective Robert Hayes. He leads the Elder Crimes Division. With existing warrants and your taped proof, we can have her detained before she comprehends what struck her. What about Michael? Laura's look softened a bit. Conspiracy to commit murder brings heavy time. But if he cooperates and testifies against her, there could be alternatives. The tapes clarify she is the orchestrator. By 5:00, our approach was established. Tomorrow morning, Detective Hayes would examine all evidence. The medical assessment shielded me from competency disputes. The outstanding warrants granted police instant arrest power. "Mr. Anderson," Laura said as I readied to depart, "you have achieved something extraordinary here. Most elder abuse victims never detected approaching. You not only identified the peril, you are halting a repeat killer." Walking to my car, I felt something I had not known in years, the contentment of a scheme uniting. Sarah Hayes had committed one critical error. She had presumed I was just another defenseless old man waiting to be exploited. Tomorrow she would discover that some targets resist. The evening air bore the aroma of autumn leaves and opportunity. In 49 hours, either I would be deceased in my basement or Sarah Hayes would be in restraints. I knew which result I was wagering on. The house felt altered when I returned that evening. Same walls, same furnishings. But now every nook held the possibility for proof. I proceeded through my pre-dinner habits with practiced normality, while my improved surveillance setup recorded everything in crystal sharpness. Michael and Emily arrived at 6:30 sharp, their Friday evening grins as foreseeable as timepieces. But tonight, I was attuned for more than meal talk. "How was your day?" Dad Michael inquired, settling into his customary seat. "Productive," I answered, which was the understatement of the decade. "Handled some vital matters in town." Emily's eyes focused slightly. "Oh, anything noteworthy? Just old man tasks. Doctor appointments. Paperwork. You know how it goes." The falsehood came smoothly. Let them believe I was just another senior shuffling through his leftover days. During dinner, Emily excused herself to make a phone call. Through the enhanced audio setup, her voice transmitted flawlessly from the kitchen. "Tony, it is Sarah. Sunday morning is set. Yes. 9:00 a.m. sharp. No, the old man suspects nothing. Ensure your cleanup team is prepared by 11:00. Tony, another participant in this lethal scheme." I noted the name as Emily returned to the table with that rehearsed grin. "Sorry about that. Work call. After dinner." They shifted to the living room while I washed dishes. My ears caught every word through the surveillance setup. "I cannot continue this." Michael's voice was scarcely above a murmur. Looking him in the eye, knowing what we are scheming. "Michael, we have reviewed this." Emily's tolerance was eroding. "You owe $60,000 to individuals who shatter limbs for delayed payments. Your cutoff is Monday morning. What precisely do you think occurs if we do not proceed $60,000 gambling obligations?" Abruptly, Michael's desperation became logical. "There must be another path," he implored. "There is no other path." Emily's tone grew harsh. "You think I relish this. You think I desired to become what I am. But this is endurance. Michael, your father perishes, or you do select." The nonchalant savagery stunned me. My own son diminished to this untenable equation. "Tell me about Tony," Michael said after a prolonged quiet. "Anthony Moretti. He manages the technical aspect. Forged papers, cleanup efforts, witness handling. He has been doing this for 25 years across 7 states. Never apprehended. Witness handling. Occasionally neighbors become inquisitive. Occasionally old acquaintances inquire too much. Tony manages those circumstances. The extent of this venture was clarifying. This was not merely murder. It was structured crime with a casualty count extending across state boundaries. Sunday morning, 9:00 a.m. Emily persisted, her voice now professional. "You will be here early, supposedly checking on your father. I will be in the kitchen brewing coffee. He will head down to the basement workshop as he always does. And then, electrical mishap. The workshop has exposed cabling, outdated gear. Very credible for a man his age who demands on performing his own fixes. He will be discovered at the base of the basement stairs. What if someone probes? They will not. Tony will arrive by 11:00 to guarantee the scene appears impeccable. By 1:00 p.m., we will be sorrowing family members organizing a funeral. I stood at the kitchen sink, automatically scrubbing the same dish repeatedly as they orchestrated my demise with the proficiency of a corporate session. The insurance funds clear in 45 days, Emily added. House transaction can occur within 75 days. We will be in another state with fresh identities before anyone considers questioning. Fresh identities. Naturally. Sarah Hayes was likely just one alias in a lengthy roster of fabricated personas. By 9:30 they were departed, leaving me solitary with the burden of what I had uncovered. I spent the following hour examining every tape, duplicating files to various spots, forming an indestructible evidence chain. 46 hours. That is all the time I had remaining before they anticipated finding me lifeless at the bottom of my own basement stairs. But Anthony Moretti and his cleanup squad were about to learn that some old men do not perish silently. Saturday morning delivered the sort of lucidity that precedes a tempest. I was awake before sunrise, coffee in hand, going over the ultimate checklist that would decide whether I survived or perished in 24 hours. The basement workshop, their selected execution site, required extra coverage. I placed 3 micro cameras in the ceiling, positioning them to record every perspective where they intended to arrange my mishap. The irony was not missed on me. They had picked the one area in the house where I possessed total technical edge. By 9:00 I had reserve recording setups throughout the house, each one undetectable to anyone not searching for them. Cloud storage assured that even if they ruined my gear, the proof would endure. Detective Hayes' office reeked of stale coffee and tenacity. He was precisely what I had desired, a seasoned expert who had witnessed enough elder abuse instances to identify the authentic one when it entered his door. Mr. Anderson. I have been probing crimes against seniors for 18 years. What you have revealed here is the most intricate setup I have ever encountered. I played him the tapes. His demeanor darkened with each disclosure. Sarah Hayes, he said, accessing files on his computer. We have been following her across 4 states. Outstanding warrants for deceit and suspected homicide in Detroit and Pittsburgh. Your proof provides us everything we require. What is the strategy tomorrow 8:00 a.m.? We station tactical units around your property. The instant she and your son show up, we act. With the warrants and your documented conspiracy proof, this is solid. What about Tony Moretti? Hayes grinned sternly. Anthony Moretti has been on our watch for 25 years. If he appears for cleanup responsibility, we will be awaiting. This could dismantle a whole criminal web. The legal safeguards took another hour. Laura had assembled papers that secured every facet of my financial existence. Accounts locked against unauthorized entry. Asset transfers obstructed. Medical instructions unbreakable. They cannot access anything now, she guaranteed me. Even if something fails tomorrow, your holdings are fully shielded. What about the tapes? Legally acquired on your own premises with justified suspicion of illegal action. They are allowable and crushing. Any competent prosecutor would term this case a boon. By 1:00 p.m., I was back home, surrounded by the soft buzz of concealed cameras and reserve systems. Everything was prepared. Professional enforcement, legal defense, medical records, and sufficient proof to imprison Sarah Hayes for life. I strolled through my house, truly examining it for the first time in days. Every chamber contained recollections of the life I had established here, the son I had nurtured, the future I had envisioned. Tomorrow, that son would step through my front door, aiming to observe me expire. But he would be entering a trap 45 years in the crafting. The phone rang. Detective Hayes' voice was steady but pressing. Mr. Anderson, We just received notice that Moretti's group is already in Chicago. They are treating this earnestly. So are we, yes. Sir, we are. Attempt to rest tonight. Tomorrow will be demanding. But you have executed everything correctly. This woman's lethal rampage concludes with you. After disconnecting, I stood in my workshop, encircled by the instruments that had formed my life, and would now preserve it. Sarah Hayes had made one deadly misjudgment. She had presumed I was merely another powerless victim. Tomorrow morning, she would uncover that some quarry arrives armed with defenses. 24 hours remaining. I was prepared. The final meal. That is what persisted in my thoughts as I arranged the table for 3. In 16 hours. Michael and Emily anticipated discovering me deceased at the bottom of my basement stairs. Instead, they would confront a very distinct sort of conclusion. They arrived at 6:30 sharp, Michael bearing flowers, a gesture that might have been endearing if I did not know he was preparing to attend my burial tomorrow evening. "Dad, you appear weary," Emily said, settling into her seat with rehearsed worry. "Are you feeling okay? Just fine," I replied, dishing out the pot roast I had spent the afternoon making, looking forward to a peaceful Sunday at home. The irony escaped them, but not me. During dinner, Emily produced a manila envelope. "Edmund, I know this might appear abrupt, but we have been considering your insurance circumstances. These forms simply need a quick signature to refresh your beneficiaries." I scanned the documents. Legal-appearing papers that would likely relinquish my life savings. "What is the hurry? Cannot this wait until Monday?" "Well, the agent mentioned there could be rate adjustments if we do not handle these by tomorrow." Her grin was impeccable. Rehearsed. Lethal. It is truly just a procedure. Michael gazed at his plate, unable to meet my gaze. His hands trembled faintly as he sliced his meat. "You know, Emily," I said casually, "I have been experiencing some memory problems lately. Sometimes I overlook the simplest matters. Just yesterday, I totally forgot to mention something crucial to you both." Her eyes intensified. "Oh, what was that? I will recall eventually," I said, taking another morsel. "These things return when you least anticipate them." After dinner, they relocated to the living room while I tidied up, their voices transmitting distinctly through my improved audio setup. He seemed more disoriented than usual. Emily murmured, "Did you notice how he struggled with those insurance forms? Maybe we do not need to proceed with this," Michael said frantically. "If he is deteriorating naturally, maybe we just wait." "Michael," her tone sliced like a knife, "your lenders do not care about your father's natural decline. They want $60,000 Monday morning, or they commence fracturing bones. We adhere to the plan. 9:00 a.m. Tomorrow, 9:00 a.m. sharp. You will be here early." Checking on him like the dedicated son, I will be making coffee in the kitchen. He descends to the basement as he always does on Sunday mornings. And then, electrical mishap. The wiring there is antique, ideal for what we require. He tumbles down the stairs. We dial 911 in alarm. By the time emergency responders arrive, it is too late. I stood at the sink, mechanically cleansing dishes while they directed my demise. "What about afterward?" Michael inquired. "Tony shows up at 11:00 for cleanup. Ensures everything appears flawless. We portray the grieving kin. Gather the insurance. Vend the house. By winter, we are in Arizona with new identities." At 9:15, Emily stepped outside to place a concluding call. Through the window, I observed her pace the driveway. "Tony, it is Sarah. Tomorrow, 9:00 a.m. Yes, everything is set. The basement workshop, just as we talked. 11:00 a.m. for cleanup. Make certain you bring the electrical tools to arrange the scene correctly." When she returned inside, her facade was securely fixed. "Well, We should allow you to rest, she said, kissing my cheek with lips that might as well have been frost. Big day tomorrow. Yes, I concurred. I sense tomorrow will be very unforgettable. After they departed, I walked through my house one last time, verifying every camera, every reserve system, every fragment of proof that would terminate Sarah Hayes's lethal spree eternally. 13 hours. In 13 hours, Detective Hayes's tactical unit would be positioned. In 15 hours, Michael and Emily would step through my front door, expecting to perpetrate murder. Instead, they would enter the most thorough trap I had ever constructed. I poured myself a glass of whiskey, something I seldom did, and sat in my preferred chair. Tomorrow morning, either fairness would prevail or I would be gone. But tonight, for these concluding hours, I was still Edmund Anderson, and I was geared for conflict. The countdown was nearly finished. 8:00 a.m. sharp. I was waiting in the living room when I heard their key in the lock. Michael entered first, flowers in hand, his pretext prop for being here early. Emily followed, carrying a thermos of coffee and donning the guise of a devoted daughter-in-law. "Dad, you're up early," Michael said, his voice cautiously upbeat. "We thought we would check on you before you ended me at 9:00, I said serenely. The quiet that ensued was total. The flowers dropped from Michael's grasp, dispersing across my carpet like clues at a crime site. Emily recovered first, that rehearsed grin sliding into position. "Edmund, what an odd thing to utter. Are you feeling muddled this morning?" "Not muddled at all." I reached for the tablet beside my chair. Let me demonstrate exactly how lucid my reasoning is. The initial recording saturated the room. Emily's voice, crystal distinct through my enhanced audio setup. Sunday morning, 9:00 a.m. Electrical shock in the basement workshop. Fall downstairs. Delayed 911 call. Michael's face turned ashen as marble. Emily's facade finally fractured. "You have been taping us," she murmured. "For 4 days. Every term, every scheme, every admission." I scrolled through the files. George Wilson in Detroit. Alice Thompson in Pittsburgh. Your true name. Sarah Hayes. Outstanding warrants in 4 states. "This is inconceivable," Sarah snarled. "Those cameras have been inoperable for weeks. I repaired them Thursday afternoon. I forgot to mention it Friday morning. The most fortunate oversight of my existence." I stood, feeling more robust than I had in years. "You see, Sarah, you committed one lethal mistake. You presumed I was just another powerless old man." Michael slumped into a chair, his face concealed in his hands. "Dad, I am so remorseful. I never desired this. The gambling obligations, the menaces. $60,000, I said. That is what my life amounted to for you. It was not supposed to be this way." Michael's voice fractured. She claimed it would appear natural, that no one would suffer harm. No one would suffer harm. I played another tape, Emily's frigid voice detailing George Wilson's demise. Alice Thompson's mishap. She has slain before. "Michael, you were not aiding her in fraud. You were aiding her in murder." Sarah's poise disintegrated entirely. "You do not comprehend what it is like out there. These old fools perched on fortunes while young folks struggle. So you resolved to accelerate the inheritance procedure. They were going to expire anyway. I just made it gainful." The admission was impeccable, seized in high definition by cameras she never knew subsisted. But I was not finished yet. "Tell me about Anthony Moretti." I said, "Who?" But her eyes betrayed her Tony. "Your cleanup expert. The man you phoned last night to synchronize erasing evidence after my slaying." Michael glanced up abruptly. "Slaying, you said it would be a mishap." "It would have been," Sarah snapped, "if your father had not transformed into some surveillance specialist." "Actually," I said, checking my watch, "Tony is not arriving. None of your web is functional anymore. As if on signal, the front door exploded open. Detective Hayes entered with his tactical unit, weapons prepared, badges evident. Chicago police, nobody stir. Laura Jenkins followed, bearing a briefcase packed with legal papers. Sarah Hayes, you are under detention for conspiracy to commit murder, elder deceit, and outstanding warrants in the deaths of George Wilson and Alice Thompson. The subsequent few minutes were a haze of Miranda rights, restraints, and the methodical breakdown of a criminal venture that had functioned across multiple states for years. How long have you known Michael? Asked as they restrained him. Since Friday morning, I replied. When I overheard you plotting my demise, you selected this. Michael, when she presented you the choice between my life and your debts, you chose the funds. As they escorted him away, I felt something I had not foreseen. Not fulfillment, but sorrow. I had nurtured that boy, cherished him, sacrificed for him. But the man they were apprehending was not my son anymore. He was a stranger who had been prepared to observe me perish. Detective Hayes approached as the last of the tactical unit departed. Mr. Anderson, it is concluded. We have detained 7 members of the Moretti Web across Illinois. This venture is done. I surveyed my living room, the same space where they had schemed my murder, where I had assembled the proof that preserved my life. What transpires now? But you exist, Hayes said plainly, and Sarah Hayes never slays again. Outside, I could hear the neighbors assembling, attracted by the police activity. Soon, there would be inquiries, journalists, a hearing. But for now, in this instant, I was simply a man who had declined to become a casualty. The clock on my mantel read 8:30 a.m. 30 minutes ago, I was supposed to be deceased. Instead, I was finally fully vibrant, 7 months after the detention. I sat in the courthouse audience as Sarah Hayes received a sentence of 30 years to life for multiple slayings, elder mistreatment, and conspiracy. The judge's words, "Your calculated hunting on vulnerable seniors represents the worst of human character," lingered in the atmosphere. When she looked at me one final time, I saw no regret, only frigid strategy. Some individuals, I had learned, cannot be saved. Michael's sentencing was tougher. He got 15 years for conspiracy and elder mistreatment. From the defendant's position, his eyes still contained the boy I nurtured, not the man who had assisted in plotting my death. The judge reminded all that disloyalty within families where reliance is presumed merits the strictest responsibility. The Moretti Webb's trials developed across 4 states. Anthony Moretti himself received multiple life terms. The FBI approximated their venture had aimed at more than 35 elderly victims over 25 years. My secret tapes provided the vital proof that dismantled the whole enterprise. Courtroom successes, however, were only the beginning of something bigger. Change started in my own neighborhood with Mrs. Thompson, the widow whose urgent phone call had initiated the rescue. I installed a complete security setup in her house and instructed her how to identify the warning signs of elder deceit and control. "You have given me something I lost when my husband died," she told me, clutching the safety guide we had created. The sense that I can safeguard myself and make my own decisions. Word circulated swiftly through Chicago's senior group. Within months, I was advising families across the city, strengthening homes, reviewing finances, and informing loved ones about predatory methods. The local authorities invited me to address community gatherings. Detective Hayes introduced me by stating I had not only preserved my own life, but demonstrated how seniors could counter predators who assume they are defenseless. The Illinois Attorney General's office requested me to assist in drafting elder safeguard protocols, and my account became key to a statewide awareness effort. The message was straightforward and potent. Age delivers experience and practical abilities to detect and oppose peril. Doctor, Carter stayed my physician and became a close ally and supporter. "You have converted personal injury into community mission," she told me. "That is not just enduring, it is victory." Laura Jenkins, my attorney. And I conducted legal sessions teaching seniors how to shield assets and detect unlawful plots. My house changed from a mark into a stronghold. The basement workshop that had been a planned slaying scene turned into a training hub where I taught fundamental security and practical self-defense. Neighbors started monitoring each other. We created an unbreakable web of shared aid. Mrs. Thompson arranged weekly coffee sessions where we shared suspicious activity updates and rejoiced in minor triumphs. The pain of Michael's disloyalty never completely vanished, but it became valuable. It honed my grasp of how predators manipulate emotional ties and family interactions. In every talk I gave, I emphasized a harsh reality. Sometimes the greatest dangers come from those we trust most. Letters came from across the nation. Hundreds of messages from families who had heard the account. One elderly man in Texas wrote that my example had empowered him to challenge his family's dubious financial conduct and confront a grandson who had been pilfering from him. Those letters were daily prompts of why this effort counted. Sarah Hayes had viewed elderly folks as discardable barriers to riches. Each senior who learned to protect themselves refuted that awful presumption. 7 months earlier, I had been designated for death by my own kin. Now I awoke in a home equipped with security, encircled by individuals who esteemed rather than exploited my decades of knowledge. My schedule was packed with speaking commitments, consultations, coffee meetings with companions who appreciated my company. The utmost win was not simply outlasting a murderous plot. It was finding that the sincerest family had been awaiting in my community all along, prepared to value what I had to contribute. Sometimes God positions us in circumstances that examine not just our endurance, but our belief in humanity itself. Edmund's account reminds us that disloyalty tales like this are not merely about offense. They are about the fortitude we uncover when everything known becomes hazardous. When kin turns against us, God supplies other routes to security and purpose. The most potent lesson from Grandpa tales like Edmund's is that age is not weakness. It is gathered insight waiting for the proper moment to radiate. These disloyalty tales instruct us that predators often conceal behind affection, but true concern never requires we yield our safety or honor. Edmund's technical abilities, developed over decades, became his rescue when family deserted him. God operates through our readiness and community links. The overlooked camera notice, the neighbor's crisis call, the professional bonds Edmund had fostered. These were not accidents. They were heavenly meetings that preserved his life and revealed a criminal web. Elder mistreatment occurs because we presume age equals powerlessness. But Grandpa's tales confirm that knowledge, preparation, and faith form an invincible blend. When we respect our elders' insight instead of exploiting their reliance, we construct communities where predators cannot flourish. Edmund's shift from casualty to champion shows us that God can employ our darkest instances to light paths of assistance and safeguard for others. Your turn to impart insight. What disloyalty tales or grandpa tales have formed your grasp of family reliance and endurance? Drop a comment below sharing your ideas, and do not forget to subscribe for more uplifting life accounts that remind us how fortitude can arise from our greatest trials. Which city are you listening from?